Bless you. Bless you again. All right, so now I just need to do the eyes. I'm going to do the back of the head joint again. And for this, I'm going to go wireframe because I want to make sure it's in the center of the eye. Boom, bonk, like that. And straight out like that. And again, with the eyes, they are in the center of the head because we're on a side view. So I just need to move that to one side. And I'm just going to go to wireframe on the top of the head and pull that to the center of the eyeball here. Position on the eye is pretty important, right? You want to make sure if you aren't positive and you want to, select the rest of the geometry and hide everything but the eye, that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Get that nice and centered, just like that, right? Control-Shift-H to unhide your last hidden object. So this one's done. Don't need it anymore. Delete it. And the eye joint, again, is from his perspective, I_L_JNT. That's his left eye. So now we're going to branch off and we're going to do the arms. This is a good sternum joint. You don't want to use the joint that's connected to the neck because this joint will rotate and that will rotate the entire arm. You don't want that to happen, right? So we're going to use this as our sternum joint. It's going to be spine 05, right? So we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did for the puppet. Yep, the puppet. So I'll just hide that layer and create another one. Actually, hide. I'm just going to create a duplicate of that. Hide that and erase that. So I still have him, but there you go. All right, so now for the front, right, we have body, we have arms, and pay no attention to the quality of the drawing. Neck, going straight out like that, right? We have the joints coming up through. There's my sternum, base of the neck, and up. Connected like that. And we're going to do the same thing. This is my sternum joint, right? Position is relative to whatever you put it at. I'm going to go up here, down, and back to the shoulder. Okay, so this is going to connect there, down, and back up. For the arm, I'm going to do this down here, create a hand, something like that. Has a bulbous hand. We can't see the other fingers behind it because it's, there's another finger there, right? So for the arm, as this comes out, we're going to actually have this come out to the elbow. And because he has such a long arm, and we want to be able to hold the volume at the elbow where it bends, we want to create 3 joints right at the elbow. Okay, so this is going to help us hold the volume and not have a piece of paper folded in half for the elbow, right? We don't want a big pinch like that. Now, we're going to have a wrist joint, of course, right? But between the wrist and the third elbow joint, we have the ability to twist, to rotate our wrist. And in order to do that, we need to create a forearm joint, right? This is going to help, again, hold the volume at the forearm in the center for skinning and keep this area from twisting up like a Tootsie Roll wrapper, right? Okay, so we're going to have a forearm joint right there, dead center between the wrist and that last elbow joint. Okay, so I'm gonna do that, and then we'll get into the hand because that's another drawing, right? Okay, so again, selecting my create joint tool, and then I select my spine 5, and I want to do this in my front view. So I'm going to go up to the collarbone. My joints are really large. I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Something like that. All right, so go to my collarbone, go down a little bit, and then find the proper position within the shoulder for deformation and rotation. But I also want to keep in mind, let me turn off my grid, the line of the center of my geometry down the arm, right? So this is probably going to be about here, give or take. Something like that. Okay? So, and as you're creating the joint, you can click and drag to reposition it before you make your final decision. It's like chess, you know? As long as you don't lift your finger, you're good. And then I'm going to go to where these 3 lines are and basically place a joint at each line. Click, 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 right? Because this is the level of detail that we have on this character, so that's all we get to play with. So I'm just going to evenly distribute that through there. Now, I'm not going to create my forearm joint just yet because I'm going to show you a trick on how to place that, right? I'm going to do my last joint right down here in the wrist, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, the reason I didn't place this, well, before I do this, you'll notice that, you know, these joints are a little bit forward because the grid is a little bit forward from the center of the character's body. All I need to do to realign that is move, well, technically, I could move the clavicle back. So I'm just going to go to a top view and pull that straight back to be in line again with the geometry itself. All right, the fact that I'm using the clavicle means that I don't have to reorient any joints, right? And it's a clavicle scapula kind of thing, right? What it does is it allows you to rotate the shoulder, to shrug, basically. That's the whole point of that thing there. But these are lined up, and this is lined up pretty well, right? So what I'm going to do here, in order to get this forearm joint perfectly placed, and I usually do this for the sake of you know, getting something 50%. You've dealt with constraints, right? If I'm going to create a sphere here, this is not for the sake of, we're not going to do this as part of the rigging process. This is simply for demonstration. I'm going to create a sphere here. I'm going to double click and create a sphere over here, not double click, Control D. And then I'm going to create a cube in the center. Now, what I want to do is I want this cube to be exactly between these two spheres, right? Like perfect, 100% every single time. 50% from here, 50% from here.
You want us to make a sphere and a sphere?
No. I just said this is for demonstration.
Yeah.
So what I want to do here is I want to just, and I am gonna do this for when I place this central joint. But for now, I'm just showing you how this works, right? So I'm going to create a sphere, or select the sphere, and then I'm going to shift select the cube, and I'm going to go to constrain parent options, and I want to turn off maintain offset, okay? And I'm doing both translate and rotate, and hit apply, and my cube goes to my sphere. It is now 100% controlled by that sphere, right? Now, I'm going to do the same from this sphere to the cube. I go from this sphere, shift select the cube, and also with maintain offset turned off, hit apply. So now they are both 100% affecting that cube. They're playing tug of war. So wherever I move this, the cube is exactly dead center between the two objects. The distance between the two is exactly the same no matter where I move either of these spheres, right? So if I want to place a joint perfectly between this joint and this joint, I can use something like this to do it, right? So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to delete those, is I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to hide my geometry. I'm just going to go to show polygons and hide my geometry. And I'm going to create a locator. And I just remembered I'm supposed to be using locators for this whole process, and I didn't do it. But that's okay. This is a locator, right? I don't remember if we used one before, but this is what it looks like. It's basically a NURBS curve that denotes a position in space. It does not render, but it can be used to control things, right? So there's one locator. A Control D to duplicate, hold down V, create locator. So I duplicated this locator, and I'm going to Control D and put one somewhere in the center. Now this one I'm going to rotate. I want to rotate it. Now I'm going to scale it up. I'm going to scale it up so it's bigger than the other two. And then I'm going to do that parent constraint with maintain offset turned on. I scaled it up because rotate is controlled by the constraint. So I select the first locator, shift select the second, apply my constraint. I select the second locator, shift select the second one, which I scaled up so it's easy to select up top. I hit apply, and there it is. One locator dead center between two other locators. Now, if I hide, well, I don't want to hide my joints. If I get my create joint tool, I can then hold down V and snap that joint to that locator and hit enter to apply it. I don't need these locators anymore. But now I have a perfectly centered joint, and all I have to do is parent it into the hierarchy. I can select the joint, shift select the end elbow joint and hit P. And then I select the wrist, shift select that forearm joint and hit P. And now it's a part of the hierarchy. And it's perfectly dead centered between two other joints. Okay. So now I have a perfectly placed forearm. Now, I'm going to go ahead and name these. This is going to be clavicle or clav. I'll do clavicle. O1, L, J, and T. This is going to be clav O2 or clav N, either one. L, J, and T. Don't forget your left and right denotations. This one is shoulder. L, J, and T. Elbow. O1, L, J, and T. Elbow. O2, L, J, and T. Elbow. O3, L, J, and T. This is forearm. L, J, and T. And this is wrist. L, J, and T. Now, let's save as, because again, I've done some work. Just making sure there's no questions. All right. Now, for the hand, this is how this is going to work. Oh, I drew it on the background. For the hand, I'm going to look at this from the top down, right? So I have this like this. He has the pinky coming out. He has 3 fingers. It's going to come back to the thumb. Like that, right? Okay, and we have our wrist joint coming in like that. Now, top down. And I'll go ahead and draw, let me move all of this down. I go ahead and draw the side view of this. And again, this is going to be something like that, right? And little middle finger sticking out longer. Okay, but it's pretty well flat. There's that joint coming in. Now, so what we're going to do here, just to kind of state this makeup of a hand. Your knuckles are not in the fingers. Your first knuckles are not in the fingers. They're actually at the end of the palm, right in here. So our first knuckle joints are going to go here for each finger, right? So I'll go ahead and draw, this is top view. I'll go ahead and draw there. Middle knuckle, end knuckle, tip, and out. Each one of these is going to be like this. Same thing here. First knuckle in the meat, not here. Okay? I get that all the time. Here, there, tip, and out. And then there, middle of the finger, third knuckle, tip, and out, like that. Now, these fingers need something to hold on to, right? So we're going to create a finger connect joint that branches off to each of these fingers like this. The thumb does not connect to this finger connect joint. So this is going to be right here, and it's going to be boom, 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 right? 3 joints right there. Joint, joint, tip, out, just like that, right? Connect. Let me do that again. Like that, right? And then the finger connect joint will be here, and it'll be branching to each of those. All right, so we'll see through to that, right? Okay, so this is how this is going to be your finger connect. And then you have your palm joint here. And the wrist, it'll be connected to the wrist like that. Okay, so we have this for the sake of the thumb as well as helping with skinning. The first thumb joint, and I can't really draw this, so and I'm going to try and keep it visible for the camera, but if y'all can look at me for a second, right? We have a joint here. Can y'all see me, hopefully? I think everybody can. Let me do this in front of the camera. And y'all can see me up there as well. I'm going to stop presenting real quick. So we have this joint here, right? We have this joint here. Those are really the visible joints, but it also connects back in here to allow for another joint, right? So there's technically another joint, a third knuckle, right? There's not 3 knuckles within the finger. It's 1, 2, and then there's this one that allows you to move around back here, right? So reshare my screen. So this is going to be back in here somewhere, right? Somewhere back in here. And then we have the knuckle here. That was bad. Here, which is about here. We have the knuckle here, which is about here. Then we have the tip and out, tip and out. And this connects to that palm joint. And like that. Like that. All right. So this is a little bit different, right, than what you would expect. Okay. But this is how the hand needs to be dealt with in order to get proper rotation of the thumb swinging across to be able to touch your pinky with your thumb, which I've heard not everybody can do. But that's how we're going to do the hand. Okay, so that's a little bit more work than you would just expect. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to start using those locators. I should have been doing locators this whole time, but I'm going to start rather than just position these, which is a lot harder to do, especially at the hand. I'm going to use locators to lay out where the joints are going to go, and then I will snap, and it'll be really easy for me to place my joints, and I won't have any bad rotations or orientation problems, right? Okay, so I'm going to create a locator. I'm going to hold, select my move tool, hold down V and middle mouse click to pop it up to the joint here. I don't have to name these locators. I'm just using them, right? Control D to duplicate, and I'm going I'm going to go X-ray so I can see with shading. So this is going to be my palm position, give or take. Control D to duplicate again. Here's my finger connect, where that's going to be. And this is that band of knuckles that I was talking about before. You know, it's pretty well laid out in the geometry, right? So I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to do this in a top view because this will work also. And I'll do my wireframe unshaded with X-ray. So I'm going to Control D to duplicate. I'm going to put this one right about here. And then this one right about here. I'll put it there. And this one right about here. Right? So I have those just like that. And then it's about placing it down the finger. Now, when it comes to these fingers, it's a little bit hard because from the top, in some of these, it doesn't really have a good level of detail where the finger bends, right? You can see here, that's definitely a knuckle, but not exactly perfectly lined up. This is probably a knuckle. But in the fingers, we have two knuckles. So where's the other knuckle? Well, I'll show you. If I duplicate this locator and I hit focus, hit F to focus my camera here and rotate my camera around, you can see under the knuckle, it lifts up a little bit and then it pops back down. So I know that this edge loop is the proper position for that knuckle. So I'm going to go back to the top here and align that with that edge loop right there. The next one on the pinky is at this lift right there. So I'm going to Control D to duplicate that and move that over and align that with the pinky. Go back to my top view and get that nice and lined up. And then it's just a matter of Control D. I can hold down vertex snapping and put that dead center on the finger. I want to make sure it's on the same plane. So there's that. And then duplicate out for the final terminating joint. Now, if this is getting in the way, there's nothing wrong with selecting these and scaling them down to, you know, make it easier to read the other fingers, right? So there's that. That's where my knuckles, where my joints will be. I'm going to do that down the next finger. Control D. And this one's going to be right under here. This is, let me turn off my X-ray real quick. Yeah, so right here on that line right there, go to my top view, make sure it's lined up right. Control D to duplicate. Go back here. That's lined up under this edge right there. Get that lined up nicely. And then duplicate. Here I could probably just hold down V and snap it like that. That's fine. And then duplicate out for that terminating joint. Again, I'll just scale those down to make it easier to deal with. I'll go ahead and Control D at that size. Actually, I want to look at this here. I was going to the wrong place. I was about to do what I told y'all not to do, which is create a knuckle up in the finger. That's going to be on that line. So here's this one. Now, this center line here is a little bit off to the side. I'm not a huge fan of the geometry here, so I'm just going to put this a little bit more centered in here, right? So I'm going to put it just to the right of that line, right? Again, from his point of view, right? We're looking down the finger. Technically, it's under it from this view. So I'll put that there. Control D to duplicate, move this up. There's the divot right there. Put that right there. And then again, Control D. Hold down V and snap on X and Z to get that perfectly lined to the end geometry there. I can also go just slightly off to be in line with everything else and do my terminating joint there. Now, this all seems nice and easy, right? This all makes sense. The thumb is where it gets a little bit more difficult, right? Because the thumb is hanging down, right? So first off, I want to create that base thumb knuckle, okay? And the position of this, I may have to reset once I get to my joints and I start testing the rotation of that knuckle. But for the most part, I know it's somewhere back in here, right? If you really look at it, it's basically kind of right here at the base of the thumb, almost at the wrist, right? So I'll put this right here, something like that. And then I'll duplicate. And for this, again, I have to look at it in 3D perspective. Now, there's not a whole lot, again, of actual detail as to where this is worse than the fingers. The fingers at least have the divots. This doesn't have any of that, right? So I'm going to place this one. I'm going to activate my wireframe on shaded. I'm going to put this one somewhere in the center of this thumb here. I want it centered in the thickness. And I think this will probably do like that. And then the next one is going to be probably right in here. So I'm going to Control D to duplicate that. I'm just going to move that using the center manipulator handle and place that something like that. And then duplicate, go out to the end of the thumb, hold down V to snap to vertex, and then you can adjust if you want to get it more centered in the geometry. And then the last one, terminating joint, just pulled out like that. Right? So the thumb's a little bit funky, right? It has to be, you want to keep it centered in the geometry because that will be the best for the skinning that is yet to come, right? And again, for these joints, I might want to, locators, I should say, scale those down to make it easier to find them. Now, so I have all these locators, and I'm going to go ahead and create, I haven't done this yet. I'm going to go ahead and create a geometry layer. Geo layer. And I'm going to reference that so I don't have to select it. And I'm going to make it invisible. All right, so these are a little bit hard to tell what's what, so I'm going to scale those down a little bit. All right, but this is how our locators are going to be. So I'm going to take my joint creation tool. I'm going to select that wrist joint to start. And this is how easy this is if we use locators. I should have been doing this for the body the whole time, but you know, this was a lot easier to deal with than the hand. But I'm going to hold down V and snap, 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 snap. Hit Y to reselect. This is my finger connect tool, finger connect joint. I'm going to open that up. There's my palm. There's my finger connect right there. Select that. Hold down V. Snap, 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 snap. Done. Hit Y to reselect. Deselect my finger connect joint. Hold down V. Snap, 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 snap. Hit Y. This time we're going to select our palm joint, which is this one right here. Hold down V. Snap, 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 snap. And that's it. And by doing it this way, you don't have to reposition your joints, right? You don't have to move your joints around. You don't have to rotate them. And you don't have to deal with having to reorient them because of positioning. We will have to reorient them because of functionality, at least the thumb, but not so much the fingers. The fingers should all be good, right? But we'll get to the orientation after we're done with the joints. All right. I'm going to save as because that was a lot of work. Any questions on what we just did? Y'all good in there? Yeah. Are y'all good? Okay. Just want to make sure. Hello. 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 Okay. Just making sure. All right. So that's the top half, except for mirroring. We do need to name these. So I'm going to select the end finger joints, shift click, come on, and go over to my outliner and hit F to focus and show all of those joints. This is going to be my palm L joint, my finger connect, lowercase finger, uppercase connect, L, J, and T. This is going to be my mid base. Actually, I'm going to do underscore base, or yeah, no, I'll do base. L, J, and T. I'm going to copy that. And this is going to be mid, mid. It's going to be mid, end. It's going to be mid-term. And this one's going to be deleted. Next one. And I always do this in the outliner because I can just go down the list and not, by clicking, I might miss something, right? So this is going to be pinky base. This is going to be pinky mid. Going to be pinky end. Pinky term. And delete the last one. Index. Mid. And term. And delete the last one. Mid. And term. And delete the last one. All right. I want you to keep your locators in there. I want to see that you've used them. Okay. So now, again, I'm just going to save because I don't want to have to rename those things. Save as version 4. We only have 7 minutes left. I'm going to go over the pelvis. The leg is pretty easy. And then I'm going to get, yeah, okay. The leg is pretty, you know what? I'll draw this out because, again, we're just going to be, we're running out of time. So I'm going to create a, I'm going to create another video because this is due on Monday. So I'll just talk about it because we won't have time to go over everything. All right, so there's that. All right, so for the pelvis, what's going to happen here? I'm just going to draw a semblance of a body, right? This is looking down towards the feet. And this is cross section. We've cut him in half. This is looking at his, belly button or whatever, right? We have the core joint, the cog, right here, right? This is the spine. What we're going to do, and this is the front. What we're going to do is we're going to, and I'll do this. Here's the side view. Like that, cog. What we're going to do, in order to get proper rotation of the hips, we need to go, this is the back. We need to go straight back and straight down, okay? So I'm going to connect like that. So this is going to be here, straight back, and straight down. Like that, okay? This is going to be your hip connect joint. And this is going to be just a terminating hip term joint. And we're going to keep that for the sake of waiting. Then, off of the hip connect joint, we're going to go to each side somewhere like the top of the leg, right? So I'll just do this right about there. And that's going to connect on both sides. And then we're going to, so that's going to go like that and like that. And then from this top of the hip joint, we're going to, for the sake of waiting, we're going to go down to the actual hip joint. And this is going to be the top of the leg. And then we'll go down to the knee, right? The way the knee is going to look, again, similar to the elbow. I'm just going to draw the foot like that. So here's that joint. This joint right here is right here. We're going to do, again, for the sake of volume, 3 joints at the knee. We don't need a forearm type of joint because the knee doesn't twist that way. So I'm just going to connect that. Connect, connect. We'll have a joint at the ankle, a joint at the ball of the foot where it bends. If you take your shoe off and you bend it up at the toe, that's where I'm talking about. And then an end joint and out. So from the third knee joint, we're going to go all the way down the leg, go from the ankle to the ball of the foot, the end of the foot, and out, right? He has shoes on, so we don't need to branch off to individual toes. If he was barefoot, we would have individual toes similar to what we did with the finger connect, right? So that's going to go down to the ankle, like that, down to the ankle, out to the ball of the foot, out and out, ball of the foot, out and out. Right? So it's going to look something like that. Okay, we can't see the knee from the top down. So, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, etc. Right? So this is how this is going to look. Okay, I don't have time to get into it, but when I do the video, this is where I'm going to start. All right, let me give you your assignment sheets. We'll go over the assignment sheet real quick. So, set up the rig file by referencing in the geometry of the character, lay out the skeleton of the character, and prepare for the next phase of the process. You will never have another project directory than this one that you are setting up today for this character. You will save as and just keep numbering as you go, right? Okay? Don't name according to what you're working on. Just keep numbering, okay? Read the introduction of the book in pages 109 to 125. Follow the lecture in the class. Create a Maya project directory and complete the assignment. Name your groups. Name the objects in the scene. Okay, we're going to organize everything as I get into the video, finalizing things. Reference in the character into the scene file. This is important because we will go back into the original character file and set up our blend shapes later. Use your orthographic views to lay out the skeleton. Name your joints as you go. Make sure you delineate each side by the prefixes R and L, left and right. Orient your joints so that X is following the direction of the joint chain. Make sure that all the Z orients are following the same direction. Once you have one side of the skeleton completed, mirror that joint chain over to the other side. Make sure you use red and blue. I'll talk about this in the video to visually delineate each side. Red is for the right side of the body, blue is for the left. And we're going to have yellow for the center joints. Have one of the classmates check your rig. Submit this sheet. You don't have to do that. You will not have multiple project directories. So reference your character, name your joints, delineate left and right, check your work with a classmate, turning in your project directory. The grade breakdown. This is 50 points possible, 5 for each. Model is referenced into the scene file. Groups are named. All the objects in the scene are named. Skeleton is complete. All joints are named. Joints are prefixed by left and right for appendages. All joint orients are going in the correct direction. All joint rotations on the joints are frozen. Joint placement aligns with the topology of the character and is correct. 1 Maya project directory, critique, all for 5. All right. So have a great day. I'll get this video up as soon as it's done processing, and I'm available. I'll be here till 1. And I'll get the video done as soon as possible. Have a great day.